Hi, I'm Ryan Wright.
And I'm Jerry.
And I'm Michelle Q.
Welcome to Reasons to See.
Where we give you reasons to see.
And not to see. Mama. Mama.
Mama.
Mama. Mama. Mama. Mama. So let's hang out. Ryan's Consensus. There are a lot of reasons to see Mama. There are a lot of reasons to see Mama.
There are a lot of reasons to see Mama.
Jerry's Consensus. There are some strong reasons to see Mama.
There are some strong reasons to see Mama.
Should I redo that? Michelle's Consensus. There are a lot of reasons to see Mama. There are a lot of reasons to see Mama.
Reason to see number 1, the horror. This film did scare me a lot. I was very scared throughout a good amount of it. It's not consistently scary. It's mainly jump scares, I would say.
It's definitely got a creepy vibe and a cool sort of eeriness about it, which I really like. As far as scares go, there are a couple really good jump scares that I jumped and was like, ah!
I thought Mama was pretty scary, and I liked how you actually see Mama early on. Like, they establish that, no, it's a ghost, guys. And there are times where it's scary where they're not even really trying to be scary. It's scary, but it's also kind of funny at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's a certain type of enthusiasm to the scares that I really enjoyed. It's weird. I've never cared so much about children before. That also scared the living shit out of me.
I like that they had that intro because it immediately establishes sympathy and humanity for these kids before it turns them into complete animals.
Yeah, because
so
they're not.
It makes that possible.
And their animalistic qualities actually make sense to the story. It makes sense the way they move. It's not like they're just weird, supernatural, freaky little kids. Based off their upbringing, based off who's been raising them, it actually makes perfect sense of what's going on.
Yeah.
And why they move the way they do, you know?
Yeah.
Because they move like Mama.
Creepy little fucks.
It's almost like an animal pack.
It's kind of a fantasy type of horror at the same time. You could almost call it the legend of Mama.
It's a total fairy tale. I mean, jump scares, people call that cheap because it doesn't stick. Like, anyone can make somebody jump by making loud sounds and cutting to something. So I get why people complain, but at the same time, it's a component of horror and it serves its purpose. And as it stands, this isn't a movie that's like a jump scare around every corner.
Yeah.
Like, there is some suspense, and like I said, part of the horror that I enjoyed the most in this is all the eerie, sort of creepy stuff.
Jump scares are usually backed up with some type of creepy visual at the same time.
The fear is very menacing throughout the whole entire movie. There's this threat of when is Mama gonna come out? What's Mama gonna do next?
And which side are these children on? Are the children for, Annabelle and Luke, or are they for Mama? What's gonna happen with them? Are they kind of doing some type of manipulation?
Reason to see number 2, the directing and the writing.
It's rare where you get a horror movie that is so character-based. Every character in this film I thought was fully fleshed out. From Jessica Chastain to Luke to the little girls. I like how Annabelle and Luke have this real relationship that's going on where Luke is so focused on doing this for the children and trying to find these kids, see what's up, and Annabelle is kind of distancing herself from the relationship and she wants to lead her own type of life, and she's constantly being thrown into these situations. And with the fairy tale aspect, it's almost like it was fate for her to be put into the situation. Because this movie, in a lot of ways, you could almost call it a psychological horror film at times as well. Because there's a lot of psychology they infuse into a ghost story, which you don't often see. You usually got some type of paranormal expert that comes along. This time it's like, no, they got a psychologist expert who comes along. The story is kind of familiar, but I thought they did a kind of a fresh take on it, bringing the fairy tale elements into it and not just making it like some long drawn out tension filled, because there's a lot of different layers in it. Sometimes it's just dramatic, sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's scary, sometimes it feels like a fantasy. They got a lot of different themes going on, and the director, Andre Muschietti, something like that. I can never pronounce the guy's last name or his first name, I always get it wrong. Like, a lot of people are looking at Guillermo del Toro, but I feel a lot of the credit actually goes to him because he's like the story creator of it, he's the co-writer, he's the director. This is really his film. And he did an excellent job at it, It definitely has Del Toro's horror fantasy stamp on it.
You can see why he presented this movie.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of Spanish crew. It's also, you definitely gotta give Andre Muschietti credit, because even if the script isn't fully up to it, the direction is. Like, it's a
Yes.
really well directed movie, and it makes you excited to see what he's gonna do next, you know?
Yeah.
I adored the ending of it.
In some ways, it really actually brought to mind the legend of La Llorona.
I didn't even think of that.
That's what I mean. There's some there's some homage aspects going on in this film that I really do enjoy. Some people are calling this like confusing and hard to follow, but I don't really think it is confusing and hard to follow.
Not
You
at
know,
The main story is there were some things in the third act where I felt like something had been cut out or missing. It's like, why does everybody leave at like 5:30 when it's gonna be dark in an hour? Like,
That's what I thought.
That's
That's,
the
what I was thinking too.
it always made sense why they went there and what they did, but the thing that never made sense was why are you going so late at night?
Reason to see number 3, cinematography.
The cinematography was beautiful to look at from the beginning of the movie, you know, like that, just that moment where those children are sitting by the fire in the cabin and then Mama rolls the cherry to them. From that moment I was like, wow, what beautiful cinematography we're looking at right now.
well, they played a lot with color and stuff like that. Like, you notice the color balances on a lot of the scenes changed from like blues to golds to these redder colors.
It changes up.
There are some really stylized moments that are really cool. You know, like I saw the short this movie is based on, and dude clearly knows what he's doing with imagery, and this movie takes that to another level in a really cool way.
The cinematography enhances the creepy aspect and enhances the fantasy aspect. Every single type of genre or theme they're going for, the cinematographer and the director really seem to be on the same level to what they were trying to achieve with not just the look but the tone. They just nailed the tone down.
Reason to see number 4, great performances.
I have to start off with talking about those 2 little kids.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else,
Yeah,
you have
know?
to mention them.
You're compassionate for them when the director wants you to be compassionate for them, and they scare the shit out of you when the director wants you to be scared shitless from them. They're great. They're I could have bought them as like they cast 2 real sisters together.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
like,
they pull some incredible performances out of them, and you know, for such young ages. And I mean, that goes on them and working with the director, I imagine, because you know, I'm sure they didn't put them in all those scary situations necessarily, but it really comes across, and they're fantastic.
Yeah.
because like when Lily is being a young child, it's believable. It doesn't, and then when she's also being, you know, showing more of her traumatized sides and her fearful sides, that's also believable. And when she's being a creepy little fuck, it's also believable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And same thing with Victoria, when she's this girl at that age with that kind of level of confusion and trauma, like, wow, the emotion emitted from them is so believable
really.
for both those girls. Without those 2 girls, this movie would not have been as believable.
Yeah, no,
They did a
definitely.
fantastic job.
And it's great performances throughout, not just her. You know, Jessica Chastain, who is solid in Zero Dark 30.
She's great.
She's great again.
I like to think of
Unbelievable.
this as the sequel to Zero Dark.
Yeah.
That's what she does afterwards. Is she goes home, starts a band.
Dyes her hair, really goes all out.
I love that look on her.
No,
I'm just gonna say, tatted up punk chick is Jessica
Yeah.
Chastain. That's what's up.
And she's believable in it because
Yeah, she really is.
the last movie I saw of her was Zero Dark 30, and then I see this, and very believable, very different, and yet she's subtle, but you don't really realize how great of a performance she actually does in this movie till you reflect back on the film. It could also be about her in a way, you know, like the reference of the title could be towards her as well. It's not, but it can
a
be.
mama,
Becoming a mama.
She kind of taps into her maternal instincts.
And the guy who played Luke, he's really good in it too. You know, he's not one of the standout performances, but he has a really sympathetic role in it. And
I mean, he's got to emote.
and the psychologist too was also solid as well.
Yeah.
You know, he managed to be he fit the genre of this film just right, because he's not like a creepy psychologist, although at times he's a little bit creepy.
He's not creepy, but you have to wonder what his intent is with all this.
Yeah, you know, is he kind of greedy about it? Does he really care? Was also very believable just throughout.
Split decisions, visual effects.
Now, Mama was very visual effects, and Mama scared me. Like, as far as Mama goes, she scared the crap out of me. With the cinematography working with the visual effects, I thought that made her look that much more real and believable to me. had a fantasy aspect to it. So I actually really enjoyed the visual effects on her, and I don't think if the visual effects were as good on her, I don't think I would have been as scared of her.
I go back and forth because there are times I think she looks good in this movie, and then there are times where I'm a little distracted by like, that's a CG creature.
Would it pull you out?
Well, you know, the fact that I was sitting there noticing it was kind of a pullout. I mean, it didn't keep me from enjoying the film overall because I really enjoyed it. I saw the short, and the way they make Mama look in the short is entirely like unnerving. And this was a little more flowy and ethereal and still sinister, but there were certain moments that didn't feel like they absolutely needed to be CGI. There were just times where it felt apparent that I was watching a CG creation.
See, I was never pulled. Were you ever pulled out by it?
No, I actually really liked that aspect of her because it made it seem more mythical. It kind of like pulls you out of the sense that it's not super real, because usually with like when it comes to paranormal movies, I get freaked the fuck out. Like, I cannot watch it because I'm so scared it's gonna happen to me. In this situation, she was very scary, she was menacing, but at the same time, the fact of how she looked made it seem like scary within the realms of the movie. But I really liked that, and actually that really reminded me of the type of portrayal of the supernatural in The Orphanage. I think she was still really creepy in her movements. And even though she might have looked a little CG-esque, it really didn't, for me, it didn't pull me out of the movie or really bother me much. Or like, oh, I wish they'd made her more, you know, realistic looking. I think it really gave the right tone to the movie, personally.
It's fair. I think also partly I feel like it kind of takes away from what stuff they may have done practically that then doesn't look quite real because of that. Like, it's sort of a blend. Like, I'm all for mixing CGI and practical. Like, I'm down with that. It's just there were certain times where I wasn't entirely convinced by what I was looking at, I guess. But
really, because I felt like the effects of it, because it looked sometimes very CGI to me, I felt it blended in with the realm so well that it actually enhanced it more, because I don't know what a ghost looks like.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but I imagine it looks kind of surreal. It looks a little bit like, whoa, that doesn't look real to me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, because it looks unnatural and it looks like things ought not to look. And I'm all for that conceptually. I'm just saying, I wasn't like, that's a killer effects job when I left the movie. I was like, there were some times where I really liked the effects. There were some times where I was kind of like, oh, you know, I wasn't fully sold by what they did with the effects.
That's why it's a split decision.
To each their own.
Hey,
subscribe,
or else Mama's gonna come and eat you.
Yeah, subscribe.
And,
please.
And
subscribe.